Good evening, friends, and welcome to Dark Historian. Tonight, I've brought you a quiet, calming tale, a gentle bedtime, sleep story for wakeful minds and wandering hearts. This video is part of the Boring History for Sleep Stories series, made to help you unwind and fall asleep fast. In this episode, I'll share soothing sleep stories that invite your thoughts to slow down and your body to let go. If your mind is still busy, or if peace feels far away, you've found the right place. So gently close your eyes, take a deep breath, and let these sleep-inducing chronicles of history carry you into rest. You're silent. Night begins now. With Dark Historian Story 1. Smoke and Silence. The life of a Greek funeral worker in 5th century Athens, before the sun. Before the morning, good evening, friend of forgotten times. Settle into stillness. Let the hush of dusk wrap around you. Inhale slowly. Exhale longer. Tonight, we do not drift into the bustling agora or the gleam of marble temples. Instead, we walk down quieter paths, dusty lanes behind homes, narrow streets lined with stone markers, shadowed courtyards where no songs are sung. No one claps, no one calls. We're entering the world of the funeral worker in classical Athens, a figure rarely spoken of, yet essential to every household, every family, every breath that ends. You will not meet heroes tonight. You will meet the hands that wash them when they fall. Let us begin. You awaken before the birds. The sky is still, deep purple, not quite night, not quite morning. You've trained yourself to wake at this hour, not by choice, but by necessity. The work begins in the dark, because grief, in your line of labor, is handled before the city stirs, before the neighbors notice, before the air smells of thyme, bread, and charcoal fires. You rise from a reed mat in the corner of a shed built beside the main house. The space is spare, just a lantern, a folded robe, a jug of vinegar, a small bundle of herbs, and a clay basin. You wash your face with cold water. There is no luxury here, only routine. You reach for your worn robe, dyed dull grey with repeated washing, marked at the hem with a faded symbol of HECATE. It is not religious, it is professional today. You have been summoned to the home of Philomenos, a merchant, who died late in the evening after a week of coughing blood. You did not know him, you do not need to. You are not here for him. You are here for what remains. Your tools are simple. 2 pieces of linen, a thin bronze razor, a cup of myrrh oil, a bowl of vinegar, a wooden comb, a copper coin. You pack them into a basket, tying the lid shut with a leather strap. You will return home with less than you bring. That is always the way that the city streets are still quiet. Your sandals slap softly against the cobbles. The breeze carries the scent of damp earth and something sharper, something metallic, left over from the butcher's yard. You ignore it. Your nose has grown used to worse. Philomenos' house is just off the agora, larger than most, but not the largest. The family waits in silence behind the gate. You nod. No one speaks. That is, best words are too sharp in the morning. You follow a servant through the courtyard, past the shrine of Hermes, into a narrow sleeping chamber at the back. And there he is. The body lies on a low wooden bed. A thin cloth covers him from chin to ankle. The skin is waxy, the jaw slack. You have seen this 100 times, but each time it reminds you, we all fall silent in the end. You begin with the hands. You remove the cloth, uncovering the arms first. You wipe them down with vinegar-soaked cloths. Then, with the herb bundle, sage, rosemary, and hyssop, not for preservation, but for dignity, you clean under the nails. The fingers are still curled. You gently straighten them. The eldest son watches. You do not ask him to leave. You allow it. It is part of their grieving to see this, to know it is real. Next comes the face. You wet the linen. Wipe slowly. Eyebrows, nostrils, lips. You open the mouth slightly. It clicks. You place the abel, the copper coin, under the tongue. For current, for the boat ride, for tradition, whether real or not. The gesture must be made, or the soul wanders. You comb the hair, untangling it carefully. You shave the chin with the bronze razor. He was clean-shaven in life. They say you restore that. Each pass of the blade pulls gently against the stubble. It is quiet, work, precise. Now the feet, you uncover them last, always last. The soles are thick, cracked. You scrape away. Dirt with a dull blade. Wash them. Oil them. They will be wrapped soon, but not yet. The women of the household will wash the body once more with tears and with silence. But your part is nearly done. You light a small cone of incense beside the bed. Pine and resin, smoke curls. Upward, thin, sweet, faintly bitter. You step back, bow your head, murmur the final line, earth to earth, shadow to shade. You do not believe the words, but you speak them, because someone must. You are paid in olives, oil, and a coin. The coin you slip into a pouch sewn into your sleeve. The oil will be used to clean the next body. The olives you'll eat tonight, alone, as always. You leave before the sun climbs too high, before the neighbors begin to whisper. The family will mourn openly at sunset. Wail, rip their clothes, hire women to scream in the streets. But not now. Now is the work, the quiet, the part no one sees. Back at home, you wash your hands. You wash your hands. You burn the cloth. You hang the robe near the door. It smells of vinegar and sweat. You sit on your mat, stretch your legs, close your eyes, and prepare for the next knock, because there is always another. The path to the pyre, asterisk, the day unfolds quietly after the first tending. You sit in the shade of your small courtyard, sharpening your bronze blade on a piece of wet limestone. The strokes are slow, almost meditative. You've learned the rhythm. Not too fast, not too hard, always gentle, always precise. A dull razor tugs, a sharp one glides. You do not need speed in your work, only respect and control. A neighbor walks by, glances in, says nothing. No one talks to you for long. You're not shunned, not exactly, but there is a line between you and the others. It's not drawn on the street, not written on your door. But you feel it. You work with death. You touch it, wash it, dress it. And though they all will need you one day, they keep a cautious distance in life. You've grown used to that. There's peace in being left alone. At midday, you eat slowly, goat. Cheese on bread soaked in olive oil. You chew every bite thoroughly, not because it tastes especially good, but because chewing reminds you that you're alive. There are days when the scent of vinegar and old flesh clings to you so tightly you wonder if you've joined the other side. But not today. Today. There's sun, dot, and time growing in a pot near the wall, and that's enough. Just after the sixth light, a young boy arrives at your door, out of breath, face flushed. He stammers something. A cousin just passed, named Diodoros, a stonemason. You nod. He tells you the home is near, the northern. gate. You nod again. Then you ask, when? The boy swallows. Just now. You sigh, stand, and begin gathering your tools again. They will be expecting you, but not ready for you. No one ever is. The house is humble. A single room, mud brick walls, a small altar to Hestia, smoking with recent ash dot inside. The widow is keening softly, not wailing. Not yet, but the sound is deeper than crying it. Vibrates in the bones. You do not interrupt. You set down your bag and sit on a stool near the hearth. Waiting, it is not yet time to touch. Time must be given to part, to remember, to absorb the new. Emptiness when she nods to you, barely perceptible. You rise. The body is still warm. You are grateful for that. It is easier to straighten the limbs. The face is not yet drawn into a final grimace. The work begins again. Close the eyes. Straighten the legs. Tuck the arms neatly across the chest. Clean the ears, the lips, the neck. Remove any cloth that bore sweat or blood. Comb the beard. This man worked with stone. You can see it in his hands. The thick pads on the fingers. The white scars across the knuckles. The dust still under the nails. You leave it. Stone is part of him. It should go with him. You dress him in a simple white robe. No frills, no color. You wrap a narrow band around his head to keep the jaw from falling. Open not for fear, for dignity. His wife watches, mouth trembling, hands clenched. You do not look at her for long. You finish quickly, silently, then gather your tools. Leave the incense. Burning, bow your head and step back into the sun. Your next task is in the potter's quarter. You make your way through the narrow streets where kilns belch black smoke and boys carry fresh clay jugs stacked high. You walk past them unnoticed. The potter's wife waves from the doorway. I need a funeral jug, you say. She nods, wordless. She disappears into the back, returns with a lidded jar, small, narrow, painted with black lines around the rim. You pay her with a single coin. Neither of you speaks of death, but you both handle it, every day, in clay, in ash. Later that day, you visit the public, BATHOUSE, not to bathe, to clean your robe. The attendants know you by now. They let you in through the back. You soak the cloth in water laced with thyme oil and scrub it against the stone wall. The scent rises, not strong enough to banish memory, but enough to cleanse. You hang the robe to dry on a post, wrap yourself in a spare, and sit in the sun, watching, always watching, because part of your craft is observation, noticing who limps, who walks slowly, who coughs longer than they should. Who might need you next. That evening, the first body, Philomeno's, is brought to the ceremonial courtyard for public display. 3 days of lying in state. Family and friends file past. Some cry, some do not. Coins are dropped into bowls. A jar of wine is poured into the earth. The hired mourners arrive just before sunset. Women dressed in black, hair unbound, mouths full of rehearsed sorrow. You stay to one side, watching, making sure no one touches the body. No one removes the coin. No one removes the coin. No one disrespects the pose. You do not. Police grief, but you protect the departed. That is your job at night. You return home. Your mat is still warm from the days. Sun. You sit beside the herb pot. Crush a sprig of thyme between your fingers. Breathe in. Let the scent push the day away. You do not write anything down. There are no scrolls for your kind. No records, no name plaques. But you remember each face, each hand, each coin pressed under each tongue. You remember them all, and tomorrow you will remember one more. Ashes for the riverbank asterisk. The morning begins with the smell of burning pine. You know the scent well. It means someone, somewhere, is preparing the pyre. Not all funerals are the same. Some are quiet, some are grand, some are filled with flutes and garlands. Others are just smoke and silence and 3 witnesses, but they all burn in the end. Everything returns to Ashdod, and today you will help with 2. The first is Philo, Menos, his 3rd and final day of prophecies. The ceremonial laying out has ended. His body will now be taken to the Ekphura, the funeral procession which winds slowly through the city, past the altars, the wells, the shrines, until it reaches the edge of the sacred grove. There, the pyre waits. You arrive early, walking alone, before the sun has lifted its edge over the rooftops. The city is stirring, but the street is still dim, lined with shade and soot and people who avert their gaze. They know what you do. They do not speak. You meet the procession outside the house. The family walks in silence. 2 men carry the bier. The women trail behind, cloaks pulled over their heads. No music, just the sound of sandals on stone. A child weeps. You do not comfort, you lead. The pyre has already been built, a frame of olive wood and pine, dry from 3 summers of heat. You inspect it, ensure the joints are secure, that the wind won't shift the flame, that the gods will accept the fire. You say nothing, you light the torch. The body is laid on the wood, hands crossed, face still. The wife presses a final kiss to the forehead. The coin is still in place. You nod, you touch your hand to the flame, then to your forehead, then to the ground, a circle, a promise. Then you ignite the kindling. The fire climbs quickly. First it hisses, then it roars. You step back as heat presses against your skin. The air fills with scent, not just of wood, but of hair, oil, cloth, and time. You do not look away. You do not flinch. You do not breathe deeply. The fire does not care who watches, but you do. You must. The mourners wail now, the hired ones louder than the rest. But beneath their voices is a real one, the widow's. It is quiet, but jagged, like a broken bowl being stepped on again and again. It carries, and it does not ask permission. You help collect the bones when it is over, using bronze tongs. You lift fragments of ribs, pieces of femur, tiny shards of skull. You place them in the funeral jug. Carefully, always. Carefully. Ash is swept gently into the urn. The coals are left to burn themselves. Out, you whisper the closing. Just 3 words. Go in stillness. Then you carry the urn back to the family. They will bury it beneath a stone. Marker, or behind the house, or by the river, it doesn't matter. The place does not hold the soul. Only the ritual does. Later that afternoon, you are summoned for the second funeral. This one is different. A young man, no family, no money, a servant, died of fever behind the fish market. No coin was left, no herbs, no herbs, no herbs, no wine, just a body, and a request from a neighbor who said, someone should do something. So you go. You build the pyre yourself this time. Smaller, quieter. You bring 1 amphora of wine, a half loaf of bread, a flower plucked from the temple garden wall. You wrap the body in linen, comb the hair, light a single candle, and wait until dusk. The fire burns lower this time, slower. No one weeps, no one watches, just you and the smoke, and the sound of the wind tugging at your sleeve. You bury the ashes in a shallow grave beneath a fig tree. You do not mark the spot, but you will remember that night back at your home. You bathe slowly. You scrub your arms with salt and oil. You clean the blade. You oil the comb. You fold your robe. You light incense, not for the dead, for yourself, because the smell of fire lingers, and sleep must come clean. You lie down. The mat is still warm. You stare at the ceiling dot and remember the child who smiled at the coin, the wife who wailed too late, the man with the stone dust fingers, the boy no one came for. You remember all of them, because if you don't, no one will. And in this small act of memory, you keep them just a little longer. Let's now wander into a different time, a different place. Story 2, Sails and Salt. Life as a teen sailor on a Greek merchant galley before the wind. Good evening, friend of quiet stories. Tonight, you are not walking a marble street. You are not stirring a pot in a shaded courtyard. You are not seated by a glowing hearth. Tonight, you float on creaking wood, on salted wind, on a sea so old it remembers every oar stroke. You are aboard a merchant galley in the Aegean Sea, sometime in the 5th century BCE. You are not a passenger. You are not a captain. You are a sailor, young, low-ranked, exhausted, and in this story there are no monsters, just hunger, wind, rope, burns, and the endless sound of waves. Let's begin, quietly. Before the shouting starts, you awaken to the sound of wood groaning. The hull beneath you shifts with the tide, moaning like a tired animal. You are lying on a mat of rope and cloth, soaked with last night's spray, tucked between 2 crates of olives and a broken amphora that leaked most of its wine too. Days ago, your back hurts, your arms are stiff, but your eyes open because the bosun's voice is coming, and if you're not already moving when he arrives, you'll feel the sharp end of a sandal. You sit up quickly. Your tunic is damp. You stretch your legs, flex your hands. Salt crusts your eyelids. The sun is not yet visible, but the sky is shifting from indigo to dusty rose. The sail is still tied. The sea is calm, but the wind may pick up by second light. Until then, you row, because this is not a warship. This is commerce, and the ship waits for no breeze. The oar is cold. You grip it anyway. The rhythm begins before you're fully awake. 1.2.3. Push your legs. Anchor. Your back strains. The sweat starts quickly, despite the cool air around you. Other men grunt, breathe hard, curse softly. The old man beside you spits into the sea between strokes. You don't ask why. You're too tired to ask. You row for hours. There is no pause. Not yet. The captain walks along the deck, shouting orders. You don't look at him. You keep your eyes on the oar. 1.2.3. Push. Later. When the sky grows brighter, the cook appears with a bucket of barley mash. He spoons it out with his fingers into small clay bowls. You stop rowing only long enough to eat. You dip your fingers in its cold, gritty, sour, but you eat every bite. You drink water from the shared skin, warm, slightly briny from the leather. but wet enough. You wipe your mouth on your sleeve. Return to the oar. The wind picks up. The sail is raised. You help untie the rope. It burns your palm again. The sail snaps open, catching the breeze like a shout. The oars are lifted. You collapse. Onto the deck, gasping. Your arms shake. Your knees throb. You lie on your back, staring at the sail, willing it to keep catching wind. You close your eyes, but not for sleep, for silence. The cargo is your other burden, dozens of amphorae tied together, wedged into racks, each stamped with seals, olive oil, honey, salted fish, maybe some resin, each. One is heavy, and if one breaks, you clean it. If two break, you pray the rats don't come. You've seen them before, late at night, eyes glinting. You're ordered to inspect the ropes. You run your hands along them, checking for fray. You find 3 knots that are loosening. You tighten them. Your fingers are already raw. But you don't stop, because if a knot gives during a storm, you could lose the sail, or worse, the mast, and no one wants to swim back to Athens midday. The sun is high. The sail holds, steady. The sea is smooth. You are allowed 10 minutes. You strip your tunic, jump into the sea. It is shockingly cold. It steals your breath, but it is clean. You scrub your arms, your face, your legs. The cook throws you a handful of sand. You rub your scalp with it. That is soap. Here, you climb back aboard, teeth chattering. You dry in the sun, and you feel, briefly, human again. The captain tells you to take the helm. Just for a moment. You grasp the tiller. The ship groans beneath you. You adjust slightly. Just a hair to follow the coastline. You smile. The sea answers. And for 1 minute, you are not just a sailor. You are part of the vessel. Then the wind shifts. A storm is coming. You see it before you feel it. A line of grey on the horizon. Jagged and rolling. Orders are shouted. You grab rope. You help lower the sail. Just in time, the first gust hits like a slap. The waves rise. You steady the deck. Crates. You brace your feet. You tie your belt to the railing. You do not panic. You were taught. The sea respects only the steady dot. Rain begins. Not heavy, but sharp. You are soaked within. Minutes you can't tell. Sweat from sea, from sky. You row again, because there's no sail now, and the port is still 3 hours away. When the storm passes, you are more tired than you thought possible. You slump against a barrel. You close your eyes. You dream not of land, but of bread. Warm bread, without salt, without brine. The sun sets. The sky turns copper. You arrive at port just as night falls. You tie the ropes, secure the sail, help unload too. Amphorae, the rest will wait. You are given half a loaf of bread. You chew slowly. Your hands cramp. Your feet bleed. But the ship didn't break. No one drowned, and that here is a good day. You curl into your corner. Use a coil of rope as a pillow. You stare at the stars. You scratch your leg. You whisper to the mast, like your father taught you. Hold us, float us, forgive us. Then you sleep, not because you're done, but because the sea will wake you again soon. Tides, tasks, and the god of the deep asterisk there is no such thing as sleeping in at sea dot, especially not when you sleep under sacks of millet. You wake to pressure, not in your chest, not in your lungs, but across your ribs, where a barrel must have. Rolled loose in the night and decided to nest beside you. Your side aches, your hip is numb. You've been dreaming of dry beds and sweet figs. But all you find is a coil of rope under your elbow and a slow, creaking rhythm as the ship rocks gently. In shallow harbour waters, you sit up, stretching, cracking your spine like firewood. It's morning again. The port town is quiet. Too early for vendors, too late for fishermen. Just the wind tugging at hanging nets and gulls circling like lazy prophets above the fish market. You're not here for sightseeing. You're here for unloading, which is worse than rowing, because barrels don't care how tired you are. They don't care that your knees shake. They roll, they tip, they leak. And when they break, it's your hands that get cut, not theirs. You're given 2 tasks. Help roll 5 amphorae of fish oil to the merchant's stall near the pier. Return with an empty cart and load it with crates of flatbread for the return leg. You nod. You do not speak. Speaking wastes time, and you've learned. There's nothing more dangerous on a dock than time wasted. The amphorae are tall, awkward, and heavy at the bottom. One wrong lean and they'll tip, shatter, leave you soaked in oil, stinking for days, maybe out of a job. You place a cloth pad under each one. Roll slowly, one by one. The wheel on the cart squeaks. You breathe through your mouth. The dock smells of wet wood, crushed olives, old wine, and last night's fish guts. You reach the stall. The merchant barely looks up. He signs a clay receipt with a stylus and waves you off. Not a word of thanks. You don't expect one. The walk back is slower. Your knees ache. Your tunic sticks to your back. Your sandals squelch with harbour muck. But the flatbread crates are waiting, stacked beneath a canopy, warm still, wrapped in fig leaves. You inhale the scent. You haven't had bread that freshen. You can't remember. The cook will hoard the best for the captain, of course. But maybe, if one falls, if it cracks, you'll take the corner. Back at the ship, the rest of the crew is already loading. You join without being told, because to wait is to be seen. And being seen, not working, invites punishment. A whip if the captain is furious, a bruised shoulder if he's just bored. The flatbread is packed below, covered in canvas. You tie the knots, check each one, double check. You've made that mistake once before, a loose canvas, a broken amphora, a captain whose rage lasted 3 days. Your hand still bears the scar. It was your own rope burn, but it never fully faded. You call it your tattoo, time's brand. The ship is nearly ready to depart, but now the weather shifts. The wind dies completely. No gust, no breeze, just heat, thick, heavy air that presses down on your shoulders. Like a wet cloak, the sail droops. The captain curses. The boatswain barks. Row. And so you do. You take your seat again on the second bench. Same same blisters, same rhythm, .1, .2, .3, .3. Push. You chant to yourself a silent song. Would see sky, me, again. It helps. Not much, but enough. The hours pass like molasses poured into sand, slow, sticky, useless, coves, a fisherman's boat, a fisherman's boat, a herd of goats, on a cliff edge. You see it all, and remember none of it, because your body is rowing, and your mind is saving energy. For what? You're not sure. Midday, break, you eat in pairs. Your bowl contains lentils, onion, 2 olives, 1 cracked fig. You chew slowly. You count the pits. You share your water skin with the boy next. To you, he nods thanks. Neither of you speaks. The sail rises again. A breeze, faint. But welcome lifts the canvas. The oars are raised. Your hands fall open. You rest your chin on your knees. Stare out at the water. The sea is blue-grey, dappled with sunlight. A dolphin surfaces, then dives. You blink and forget it, because the bosun yells again, rope check. You haul yourself to your feet. The knots have tightened from heat. You loosen them. Your fingers cramp. You spit into your palm. Rub the joints. Keep going, because knots do not care about fatigue. A sudden wave rocks the ship. Just one, not a storm. Just a rogue breath. A crate shifts, slides, teeters, tips. You lunge forward. Catch it. It is heavier than you. Thought, but you hold. You save the bread. The bosun nods once. That's the closest you'll get to praise. You feel it in your chest, and you smile. Afternoon stretches. Long, the breeze dies again. You row again, this time with less strength, but more rhythm, because that's all you have left. A rhythm, and the memory of what the stars will look like tonight. Evening comes. The ship anchors in a quiet bay, not a port, just a cove, for rest, for stillness. You dive into the sea again, wash the day from your skin. The salt remains, but the sweat is gone. You eat your meal in silence. Same food, same bowl, but it tastes better after the water, before sleep. You climb the masts just a little way, just enough to see past the sail. The sea stretches forever. Dark, dark, gentle. UNMOVING. You imagine it remembers every ship, every sailor, every oar, you hope. It remembers you just a little. You sleep on deck tonight, beneath the stars, a piece of bread in your pouch, a coil of rope beneath your head, a breeze across your face, a dream just out of reach, and the gentle rock of the sea telling you, you are not important, but you are here still. The weight of the water, asterisk, you awaken before dawn. Not because someone calls for you, but because the sound of water against the hull has changed. It's softer now, slower, as though the sea itself is catching its breath. You open your eyes. The stars are still out, but faint. A blush of color hides behind the eastern hills. You sit up slowly. Your joints protest. Your fingers are swollen. You crack your knuckles, one by one, and flex your toes inside salt-stiff sandals. Today is the final leg of this week's journey from the quiet cove back to the home port, and the ship must move before the wind disappears again. The captain's voice cuts across the deck like a dull blade. Up, sail, check rope, said Bolin. No names, just orders. You rise, you move, no questions. That's the rhythm. There is no pride. Just muscle. You climb the mast slowly today. The breeze is already shifting, promising. Uncertain, the sail is stiff with yesterday's salt. You pull it free, letting it billow open. It slaps the mast as it catches the first gust. You squint into the wind. Salt stings your eyes, but you smile because the sail holds. You won't need to row for a while, and that means your hands will stop bleeding. Just for an hour, the ship glides forward, low waves, cool breeze. You sit at the edge of the deck, feet dangling above the sea. A dolphin surfaces nearby. You do not gasp. You've seen it before, but you do nod, just slightly. A silent greeting, a shared moment. Then it dives again, gone, like everything else out here. Mid-morning. Inspection. You open a few crates. Salted meat, dried olives, barley. Check for mold. You tap the sides of the amphory. Listen for cracks. You rewrap the bread crates. Tie the lids tighter. You find one broken fig at the bottom of a crate. You eat it soft, fermented, but still sweet. You wipe your fingers on your tunic. Return to the deck. The sun climbs. The wind dies. You're ordered back to the oars. You sit beside the same boy, Callias, maybe, or Manon. Names blur at sea. He has a bandaged hand. You row for him too. Strokes to every one. You say nothing. He nods once. That's thanks enough. The horizon holds the shape of home, just barely visible now. A line of hills, a smudge of stone and smoke. It looks smaller than you remember. You always think that before you left. It seemed like the world, after days at sea, it's just another port. Another load of crates. Another line of rope to haul. You were told to clean the deck. You scrape dried fish scales from the planks. You rinse the starboard rail. You pour vinegar water on the spots where someone was sick 2 nights ago. You do it all with your back aching, your legs burning. But you do it, because the ship must return looking like it was never used. That is the way of merchantmen, the illusion of permanence. The captain orders, you below. He needs a count of the grain jars. You climb down into the hold. The air is thick, warm, humid, close. You cough. Count each. Jar. Seal each lid with a dab of resin from a small pot. One is cracked. You mark it with a red string. Later, someone will lie and say it happened in port. But you know the truth. You made the rope too tight. You tied it wrong. You don't say anything. Just fix what you can. Back on deck, the crew gathers final checks. The harbor is near now. The sail is lowered, or is out. A slow approach. Each rower waits for the signal, then moves together. You're part of the rhythm, like always. Oars dip. Rise. Drip. Dip. Again. The sea parts in even lines. The dock draws closer. There's no crowd waiting. Just a few boys with ropes. An old man with a ledger. A girl selling onions from a basket. That's your welcome, and it's enough. You tie off the lines. Step ashore briefly. Help unload 5 crates. Then 10. Then the amphory. The sun is high, now. You're sweating through your robe. Your arms tremble when you lift. But you keep lifting, because the work doesn't stop. Just because you've arrived. Later, you sit on a stone near the pier. The captain is inside the merchant hall. The bosun is checking payments. You're allowed to rest. You sip from a clay cup of watered wine, thin, sour, but cold. You eat a barley cake, hard, dry, but real. You scratch a note into the wood beside you. A mark only you understand. One trip done, you wonder how many marks line this dock. How many sailors have scratched their presence into the world. In silence, you do not count. You do not ask. You just press harder with your nail. Make the groove deep. Let it stay longer. Night falls. You return to the ship. You sleep on deck again. Same rope pillow. Same damp mat. But something feels different. Not because you were rested. You were not. But because you did the work, and the sea did not break. You listen to the waves lap the whole. You close your eyes, and you let your mind drift. Not to home, not to future journeys, but to the oar, the rope, the fig you found in the crate, and the dolphin that looked at you for just a moment, like you belonged here. And maybe you did. Story 3. Lines on parchment. A day in the life of an ancient Greek mapmaker. Asterisk drawing the world from a desk. Asterisk, good evening, wandering soul. Dim your light, Draw your blanket closer. Let the dust of the day settle. Tonight we won't march into battle. We won't build temples. We won't sail stormy seas. Instead, we remain indoors, quiet, still, surrounded by scrolls and silence. Because sometimes the hardest journey is drawing one dot in this story. You are a mapmaker's apprentice in the city of Miletus. Around the late 6th century BCE, a time of thinkers, theorists, and dusty dreams of distant lands. The world is larger than anyone can know, but you will. Try to draw it anyway. You awaken to the sound of scratching. Not a mouse, not a broom, but a stylus. Dry bronze on clay, dragging across a wax tablet, in short, precise strokes. You lift your head from your mat. The air smells like old ink, wet ash, and goat hide parchment. Your master is already up, already working, hunched over his scroll like a vulture over a scrap. The sun has not yet touched the upper walls, but time moves, with or without light. You rise quietly, slip your feet into worn sandals, rub your eyes, stretch your arms until your shoulders pop. You do not speak, not yet. The first rule of apprenticeship: never interrupt a man chasing a coastline. You step into the side room. It is your task to prepare the tools. A pot of diluted charcoal ink, a reed stylus. Cut at an angle, a second wax tablet. Warmed by the coals, a fresh strip of scraped parchment, the copper compass, a string weighted with a bit of stone. Your straight edge, you arrange them with care, not for beauty, for reach. Your master moves quickly when the ideas flow. He will not thank you for a tidy table, but he will curse loudly if the compass is too far from hand. You return to the main chamber. He does not look up, he mutters. Fetch the Anaximander scroll. You nod. You know exactly where it is. 4th shelf. Left column, rolled in goatskin. You retrieve it without needing the latter. You unroll it slowly. The map emerges, or what passes for one. A rough circle. Land at the center: Asia, Libya, Europa. A triple-leafed island surrounded by sea, edged by the endless river. You stare at it, even though you've seen it dozens of times. You never stop wondering, how did they guess? How did they know? Your master finally speaks to you directly. We must add the Ionian outposts. You nod again. You retrieve the coastal records. A long, ink-streaked parchment listing ports, distances, and trading times. You spread it beside the scroll. You wait. He begins dictating. From Miletus to Phocea. 3 days by, or 1 by sail. You copy his words onto a new wax tablet. Not in letters, in lines, dots, dot marks, because for you, a line on wax is easier to revise than ink on skin. He pauses. Do you think that's right? He's asking you. This is rare. You pause, think, the wind. From the north, this season is strong. It might shorten the sail time, but that is only true if the boat is empty, with cargo. Longer, you say? 2 days. If the amphorae are full. He grunts. He nods. That means yes. That means you're learning. The sun begins to rise. Light cuts across the clay floor in long beams. You pull the shutters open slightly, just enough to read. By dot, not enough to glare. The ink cannot dry too fast. Your master begins tracing new coastline. His hand is slow, deliberate. His eye moves faster than his wrist. He murmurs to himself. You do not interrupt. Instead, you begin preparing the pigment for corrections. Burnt ochre, mixed with egg white to lighten, or cover, or revise. You crush the powder with a flat stone. You stir slowly. The smell is sharp. Your eyes water, but the paint must be perfect, even if the maps are only for philosophers. At midday, you're sent to the harbour, not to sail, to listen. You are to find any captain who returned this week from the south. Ask how many days to Naukratis. Ask if they saw islands not marked. Ask if the stars matched the lines. You walk to the docks. The air shifts immediately. Fish, brine, tar, sweat. You step between crates. You find a familiar face. Captain Lycian, grizzled, broad, loud. He recognizes you. Back again with your wax board. Little scribe. You smile. He brags of storms, dolphins, and a sandbar that nearly cost him his rudder. You nod through the stories. You learn 3 things. A new reef near Myus, a coastal fire beacon near Erythrae, a quicker tide path along the southern Bendu. Thank him. He slaps your shoulder. You wince. His hand is like driftwood, wrapped in rope. You return before sunset. Your master is carving new lines. You report what you heard. He does not look up, but you see his hand. Slow, he is listening. You mark the changes on the wax board. He nods again, again. No thanks, but again, the nod. You live for that. The candles are lit, one by one. You seal the fresh scroll, wrap it tightly. Set it on the rack to dry. Tomorrow it will join the others. But tonight you clean the tools. You wipe the inkstone. You rinse the stylus. You warm a fresh tablet near the coals. And then, before sleep, you do something you're not supposed to. You draw your own map. Just a small one, a single cove, a path through imagined hills, a river that splits in 2. You do not know these places, but you might one day, because some people walk the world to know it, and some people sit at desks, ... and learn to draw it anyway. The mistake that changed the shoreline asterisk. The morning begins with tension in the air. Not the kind that hums before a storm, but the quiet kind. The kind that follows your master's silence. You've seen it before. A scribal mistake. A missing measurement. A report that disagrees with a trusted source. In a world where no one sees the whole, disagreement is constant. But when a mistake is discovered, even in a single curve of coastline, the consequences ripple. Not because ships will sink, but because a philosopher might quote it wrong. And that matters more. You sit down at the work table. The scroll from yesterday is laid out. A corner weighted with a stone. The ink has dried. The compass rests to one side. The mistake, you soon learn, lies in the distance between Ephesus and Teos. You marked it as 2 days. Another scribe from Samos has claimed it is 4. Your master speaks quietly. He sent a letter. He enclosed a sketch. He unfurls the rival scroll. It is clumsy, but plausible. Your master stares at it, then at yours. He does not speak. You wait. Finally, he sighs. Parchment lies. He mutters. You're not sure if it's a proverb or a complaint. He hands you both scrolls. Measure. You retrieve the weighted string. You anchor it at the dot for Ephesus. You stretch it gently, evenly, across to TOs on both maps. Then you calculate using the standard unit, a day's travel by merchant vessel. 1 unit equals roughly 80. Stades, depending on current and wind, but the scale is clear, and on the rival scroll, they are not equal, not even close. The Samos map is wrong. You report this. Your master listens, then waves you off. He is not pleased, not because you're wrong, but because now he must write back, with correction, which invites rebuttal, and so it begins, the geometry wars. You return to your duties. Today is a correction day, not revision, but improvement. You are assigned the northern border of Asia Minor, the section where the land curves like a sleeping animal and the Black Sea breathes. Cold fog against the cliffs. You sharpen your reed. You test the ink. You review the weather. Records travel times between Sinope and Heraclea. You mark the coastal ridges with short dotted lines. You begin sketching, not from sight, from numbers as you draw. Your mind drifts. You think of the traders, the Descatians, the boys who rowed the boats. You never met them, but you chart their lives in lines and arcs. You wonder what they'd say if they saw your maps. Would they laugh? Would they say, no, the wind always bends there, or that harbour floods in spring? You imagine a sailor staring at your map, nodding or shaking his head. You hope, someday, someone nods, your master calls you. He is writing the rebuttal to the Samos. Cartographer. He asks you to dictate the measurements. You speak slowly, confidently, you know, these numbers. He inscribes them in clear Ionic script. You watch his hand, still, precise, still calm, but firmer now. There is pride in this correction. You feel it too, just a little dot at midday. A visitor arrives, an older man, dressed plainly, with weather-beaten hands. He's not a scribe, he's not a scholar, he is a sailmaker. Your master greets him with deference. They speak in quiet tones. You are asked to leave the room briefly. You wait outside. You count the birds. You draw a quick sketch of a coastline, imaginary, in the dirt with a stick. You wonder if it will ever be real when you return. The sailmaker is gone, but he has left behind something remarkable, a cloth map, rare dot, expensive dot inked, with symbols you don't recognize. Curved coastlines, harbour, markers, winds drawn in spiral glyphs. It's not geometric, it's experiential, but it feels alive. Your master lays it flat, stares, then mutters. He said, it came from the east, beyond roads, beyond what we know. You trace a line with your finger. It bends sharply at a place not on any of your scrolls. A new island, a misinterpretation, or something true. You feel your pulse quicken. This is why you map dot, not to confirm what is known, but to glimpse what isn't. You are assigned a new task. Copy the cloth map onto wax, faithfully, but without naming, only form, only shape. You begin at the top. The ink spreads. Slowly on the warmed wax, your hand moves steadily. You feel something strange. Not pride, not wonder, but responsibility. Because once you copy it, it becomes part of the canon, even if it's wrong, even if it's a dream. That weight is heavier than the scroll. Evening falls. The wind outside grows cool. You light a small oil lamp, your wax. Tablet glows faintly in the amber light. Your fingers are stained, your back aches, but your mind hums. You think about islands. No one has seen Abbott rivers that flow backward. About borders drawn wrong for 100 years. Don't you think about the lines, the ones you draw, and the ones that bind the world together? Not roads, not rivers, but ideas. Tonight, before sleep, you climb the stairs to the roof. You stare at the stars. You whisper each one by name. Not for astronomy, but for guidance. Because long before the maps, the sky was the only scroll anyone read. And even now, it's still the only map that never changes. Where the world ends, asterisk. It's nearly midnight when you feel it. That faint vibration under your fingers as you press the stylus into wax. Not a tremor in the earth, not wind against the shutters, but a shiver in your chest, a knowing you've finished. Copying the cloth map, every line, every curl of coastline, every uncertain bay, and as you lift the stylus, you realize something quietly unsettling. There's a world here that doesn't exist on any scroll you've ever seen, and yet, now that it's copied, it does, at least here, at least. In wax your master is asleep. Finally, you hear his slow breath from the inner chamber. He trusts you enough to leave. You alone with the scrolls, and tonight you feel the pull, not of rebellion, not of danger, but of curiosity, the kind that can only be scratched by doing the unspoken. You unroll the Herodotus map just slightly. You compare it to your copy. Their edges do not match. Their oceans disagree. Their rivers argue. And yet, there's something that feels like they're both trying to explain the same ghost. You pull out the wax tablet again. You begin drawing your own version. Not copied, interpreted. You blend what you've read, what you've heard from sailors, what the cloth showed, and what the old scrolls whispered. It's not precise, but it feels true. It curves where the wind does. It stretches where the stars guide. It breathes, and when you finish, hours later, you feel, not proud, but quiet, as though you've carved a name into wet sand and waited to see if the tide will keep it. The next morning, your master says nothing. Not at first. He enters the study, sees the new wax sketch lying to the side, says nothing for nearly an hour. You feel your stomach twist. Have you gone too far? But then he clears his throat. He gestures at the tablet. He says, "Show me where this curve came from." You kneel beside him, explain, point to the sailor's log, the cloth map, the northern wind. Current recorded last winter, the sandbar near. Delos. The off-course report from the Phoenician captain. You speak slowly, carefully, but not timidly. You believe in this curve. And when you finish, he says, "It's wrong." You pause. But not impossible. He stares at it again, then at you, then back to the scroll. You'll redraw it. He says, you nod. You don't know whether you've been punished or praised. But either way, he's keeping the tablet. And that means something. The rest of the day is spent copying boundary lines. Boring, repetitive. You ink the grain maps for the western coast. You mark fields, towns, roads. You trace the pattern of ownership left behind by dead generals. These are not maps for sea. They are maps for tax, and they feel heavier, less like dreams, more like prisons. But they matter, because every line tells someone where they can and cannot walk. At midday, a student from Athens arrives, philosopher-type tunic, to clean. Scrolls tucked under both arms. He speaks fast, asks faster. He wants to see the latest rendering of the known world. Your master shows him the standard scroll, not your version. The man snorts. This is useless. The Persians draw it differently. Your master raises an eyebrow. So draw theirs. The man blinks. But how would I mean? Your master smiles slightly and says nothing more. The man leaves soon after, muttering later, you help rebind. An old parchment, it has begun to flake. The goat hide is splitting. You stitch the edge gently. rubbing a layer of glue made from boiled hooves into the seam. You whisper as you work. Names of ports, names of rivers, not because anyone hears, but because saying them makes them. Reel, you finish binding it, set it back on the shelf, and wonder if anyone will ever read it again. That night, as you prepare to sleep, your master places a new blank scroll beside your mat. You'll start your own, he says, not for clients, not for merchants, not for display, for you. You look at him, he nods, then walks away. That's all. No speech, no ceremony, just permission, and that, somehow, is heavier than any scroll you've copied. You lie in the dark, the scroll beside you, the wax tablet under your arm, and the stars, outside your window, silent, steady. Ancient, you close your eyes, and you see it, the world, not as it is, but as it could be. With rivers no one has found, islands no one has named, mountains that curve in ways only. You can draw, not because you've seen them, but because someone, someday, will need to, and they will reach for a map. And maybe, just maybe, it will be yours. Story 4, Dust and Discipline. A day in the life of a young trainee at a Greek gymnasium, asterisk. The first blow before dawn, asterisk. Good evening, listener, of forgotten routines. Let the day soften now. Let your shoulders fall. Let your thoughts sink low, like warm oil into cloth. Tonight, we do not speak of gods or warriors. We speak of a boy, lean, trembling, dusty, standing barefoot in a training yard, long before the sun has warmed the stone. Because before there were Olympians, there were the bruised boys who became them. And before glory, there was pain. Let us return now to the 5th century BCE, to the edge of Athens, where marble is still cold and sandals have not yet been strapped. Let us follow a young boy's first hour. In the Gymnasion, you wake to the smell of smoke and sweat. Not yours. The sweat belongs to the man in the next room, your instructor, already warming his limbs in silence. The smoke comes from the charcoal brazier in the corner, lit long before you stirred. You lie still for one more moment, just one. Your mat is thin, your blanket thinner. You count to 5. Then you rise, because the sun is not yet up, but the drill master will be. And if you're not waiting when he enters the yard, the first strike of the day won't be from a training staff. It will be his open palm. You wash quickly, a splash of cold water, just enough to wipe your face and rinse your hands. You smear a touch of oil across your chest, not for vanity, for tradition, for protection, for the illusion of readiness. You slip your tunic over your head, not the sash at your waist. Check it once, then once again you step outside. The ground is still damp from the night. The training yard is silent, but not empty. The others are their boys of all sizes, all ages, all smells. Some stretch, some squat. Some still half-dash asleep. No one speaks. Speaking draws attention, and attention draws bruises. You take your place at the edge of the circle, bare feet unpacked, earth-dot hands at your sides, back straight, eyes forward. Just in time, the instructor arrives. He doesn't speak. Either he doesn't have to. His presence commands. He carries the long staff, worn smooth from years of use, notched with names you do not know. He circles the group once, silently, then slaps the staff once against the stone wall. That is the signal begin. Warm-ups are not gentle. Stretching is not meditative. It is punishment softened by repetition. Knees to chest, back bends, palm, presses, heel lifts. You do not count aloud. You do not breathe loudly. You survive the warm-up. That is all. Then comes the staff drill. One by one, boys are pulled forward. A short wooden rod, a padded strike to the ribs, another to the thigh, another to the shoulder. Each boy must block, dodge, absorb, fall. You step forward. Your name is called, not kindly. You raise your arms. Ready, the blow comes before you can react. You twist, just slightly. It lands across. Your ribs, hard, but not clean. You drop to one knee. He pauses, waits to you. Rise again, arms raised. The next blow is better. You deflect it. He nods, moves on. You exhale, carefully. Your side throbs. You do not touch it. To touch it is to show weakness. Next comes wrestling. The sandpit is raked fresh each morning. By whom, you're not sure, but today you're grateful for it. You step in barefoot. Opposite another boy, thicker than you, older, his arms look like tree branches. Yours feel like willow, reeds, but you crouch. You press your fingers into the grit. He lunges, you twist. He catches your waist. You fall, hard you. Feel the air leave your lungs. You lie still. The instructor does not scold. He waits. You roll to your side. Kneel, stand on face. Him again. He raises his chin. You're allowed to leave the pit. You wash in the cold trough. It stings, but it helps. Your knees are scraped. Your shoulder is purpled. Your lip is split again. You do not complain. You join the others at the breakfast line. A handful of barley mash, 1 date, a sip of vinegar dash water. That is all. But you chew slowly, gratefully, because hunger dulls. Pain dulls thought. And that is the gymnasium's quiet gift, forgetfulness. Not of the world, but of your softness. After breakfast comes running. Not for distance, but for power. Short bursts across the yard. Again, until your legs are hollow, your lungs are knives, your sandals are mud. You fall once, rise, fall again. The instructor laughs. You rise again. He stops laughing. You keep running. Finally, rest. A brief one, 10 minutes. You lie on your back in the sun. Eyes closed, your heart pounds. Your breath comes ragged. You can feel each bone, like separate instruments in a discordant song. But you are not broken, not yet, and in this, there is strange pride. One of the older boys kneels beside you. He presses a lump of wax into your hand. Heated later, he says, for the bruises. You nod. He doesn't wait for thanks. He just walks away. But you will remember this moment longer than any strike. The sun climbs. The air thickens. Your tunic clings to you. Your hair is stiff with dust and sweat. And still you have drills to do. But for this one moment, you lie still and breathe. And the earth beneath you does not judge. It simply holds your weight. And the sky, uncaring, still shines above. The mind must bleed to asterisk. The midday bell is not a bell. It is a clap, sharp, echoed across the stone walls. You rise from where you rested, wiping sweat from your forehead with the edge of your tunic. No time to change, no time to clean. You will. Sweat again soon enough, because midday means lessons, not of the body, but of the mind. You file into the shaded colonnade, bare feet whispering over smooth stone. It is cooler here. The sun touches only the edge of the columns. The instructor, a philosopher, sits cross-legged on a stone bench, a wax tablet resting on his lap. stylus in hand. He does not look up as you enter. He finishes writing. Then he says, almost absently, "What does it mean to endure?" Silence. He waits. He always waits, because silence is the first answer. Then, finally, one voice, older, braver, says, "To survive hardship, the..." Teacher looks up. "Incorrect," he says gently. "To endure is to remain yourself in hardship." He lets the words hang, then gestures for you to sit. You lower yourself onto the stone floor. It is cold against your bruised legs, but it helps. You rest your elbows on your knees. Listen, he speaks of Heracles, not the hero of myth, but the man who chose labor over luxury. Of Socrates, who walked barefoot even in winter. Of Achilles, whose rage was not strength, but weakness. You do not fully understand it. Not yet, but you hold the words, like smooth pebbles in your mind. You might polish them later. When the pain dulls, then comes memorization. A short verse from Hesiod. You all chant it softly. Together, the words are old, older than the gymnasium. They smell of ash and wind. You whisper them with cracked lips, and wonder who else, in another city, another century, repeats the same sounds after the lesson. You rise stiffly, your knees pop, your back aches, but your mind feels calmer, as though the words, like cool water, have seeped into your cracks. Then comes sparring. No padding now, no gentle blows. You are paired with a boy your size. You nod to him once. He nods back. That is all the civility you are allowed. You circle, bare, feet sliding in dry sand. Hands raised, eyes locked. He lunges. You duck. He strikes. You block. The dust flies. Your breath quickens. You faint leapt. He stumbles. You press forward. Then he catches you with a palm to the chest. You fall. The wind leaves your lungs in a grunt. You lie there, not from injury, from surprise. The instructor says nothing, just waits. You rise again, nod once, circle again, this time, slower. You do not fall, not this round, after sparring. Your tunic is soaked through. You strip it off, rinse it in the basin, hang it over the wall. The sun will dry it. Before dusk, you bathe your wrists in cold water. Then your shins, your toes sting from tiny cuts. But you are whole. You are given a small loaf of bread, a smear of lentils, half an olive. You eat alone, by the wall, watching the birds pick at the discarded crumbs in the dust. A bee lands near your foot. You do not move. It stays for 3 breaths, then departs. You envy it, not for flight, but for its freedom from training. The rest of the afternoon is devoted to drill, not just movement. Precision. You, and the others are lined up in rows. The instructor calls a pose. You must strike it instantly. Knees bent, back straight, arms extended, hold, shake, still, double quotes, hold. He says again, your legs burn, your calves twitch. A boy to your left collapses. The instructor says, nothing, just continues the drill. That boy is forgotten until he stands. Again, then come the weights, small stones in leather bags. You hold them at arm's length. For as long as you can, your arms tremble, your neck stiffens. You whisper numbers to yourself, not to count, but to survive. You reach 11 before you drop. That is one better than yesterday. That is something. As the sun dips low, the instructor finally claps again. Dismissala, no cheers. No. Relief, just release. like water slipping from a cracked jug. You bow your head slightly, not to him, to the moment, to your own endurance. You walk to the bathing trough. The water is cool. You scrub yourself with sand and olive oil. It removes sweat, not pain. You see the bruises forming. Your shoulder, your forearm, your left thigh you press. Gently winces ripple across your face, but no sound escapes. You dress in clean linen. Your only reward. Evening arrives. The sky turns bronze. You sit beneath the colonnade again, this time alone. The others have gone home. Or, to prayer, you remain, watching the wind curl dust across the yard. You speak the Hesiod verse again, softly. To no one doth then rise, and walk to your quarters, before sleep. You rub wax into your shoulder. The boy who gave it to you is already snoring. You do not wake him. You light a single lamp. You kneel, and you whisper a quiet thanks, not to a god, but to your own spine, for holding you up one more day. You wake in darkness again, but not from the bell, not from the clap of a staff, or the bark of your name. You wake from pain. It is dull, deep, settled in your shoulder like an old guest, the kind who speaks no words, but never leaves the room. You do not groan. Groaning is for children. You sit up slowly, letting your weight shift one piece of you at a time. First your neck, then your knees, then the long stretch of your back, sore from the cold mat. You dress in silence. You tie your sash tighter than usual, not for pride, but to keep your ribs from shifting too much. You step outside. The yard is empty, but it is never truly empty. The dust remembers your steps, the wall still echoes yesterday's blows. The gymnasium holds the breath of every boy who's ever broken here. Today, the games master is watching, not just the punstructor, but the man who oversees all training. He arrives without warning, robed, clean, unmoved. He says nothing to the boys gathered in the yard, but his presence is a weight. Even the older boys stand straighter. No one fidgets. No one coughs. Even the dust seems to settle. The instructor bows slightly. Then drills begin. The warm-up is shorter today. The tests come next. Not competition. Assessment. Your strength, your speed, your memory, your focus. You are called first for the discus. A heavy stone disc, worn smooth by hands much larger than yours. You step into the circle. Grasp it. Feel its weight. Settle into your palm. You swing once, twice, then release. The disc arcs. Not far, but clean. It lands solid, rolls once, then stops. The games master says nothing, but he marks something on his scroll. You step back, breathing through your nose. Next is wrestling, but this time you face someone new. A boy from another gymnasium visiting, older. Broader. He grins. Not unkindly, but knowingly. He's done this before. You are fresh, Clay. He's already fired. The match begins. He moves quickly, not brute force. Precision. You're on your back before your lungs. Catch up, but it doesn't end. He lifts you again. Again, you fight harder. He slips your grip. You fall. He pins. You grunt. He lets go. You stand again. The third time, you manage to twist under his grip. Just for a second, you almost find his ankle. He pulls away. You fall again, but you heard it. The instructor grunted, barely. Approval. Surprise. You don't know. But you rise differently this time. The match ends. You both bow. You nod to him. He nod back. and you sit, chest heaving, the world swimming behind your eyes. You are given bread, thicker than usual, a reward, no, a necessity. You're told philosophy will begin shortly, and you must eat fast, because minds cannot move when bodies are starving, this time. The lesson is spoken by the games master himself. His voice is deeper, slower, measured like a poem carved in stone. He asks a question: what is the purpose of pain? Silence. He waits longer than usual, then says, pain is the tutor of form. You write it on your tablet carefully, but you already feel it in every muscle, every bruise, every missed hold and failed block. The rest of the afternoon is for form practice, repeating movements over and over, stances, strikes, defensive positions, not in combat, but alone in rows. Like statues, rehearsing life, your body stings with each motion, but you do not falter, you do not rush, you hold each pose longer than the boy next to you, and when your arms finally drop, it's not from weakness, it's from completion before dusk. A guest arrives, a former champion, old now limping, but wide, dash-shouldered. He watches the remaining drills, says nothing, but when he passes you, he pauses. He taps your shoulder, the sore one. You fight quieter than most, he says. Keep that, then he moves on. You do not smile, but you feel it, like fire behind your ribs. Not pride, but recognition. Evening falls, the others leave, you remain, cleaning the practice yard, sweeping sand back into the pit, tying the ropes, stacking the stones. Your instructor nods once when you finish, then leaves. You sit at the edge of the colonnade, alone. The sky is a deep violet now. The stars are emerging one by one. You breathe slowly. Each inhale is sore. Each exhale is earned. You unwrap the old wax from your shoulder, melt it near a lantern, reapply it. The warmth seeps in, but the pain stays. It is not sharp anymore, just familiar. You lie down beneath the bench, not for punishment, for sleep. The stone is hard, but it holds your shape. Now, the gymnasium does not thank you. It does not celebrate you, but it accepts you, and that is more than enough. You close your eyes, whisper the words from earlier. Pain is the tutor of form. You repeat it until the sentence loses meaning, and all that's left is stillness. Story 5. Ash and Laurel. A day in the life of a mourner in ancient Greece before the keening begins. Good evening. Gentle listener, settle now into quiet. Dim the lights, slow the breath. Let the world hush around you as we walk softly into a moment not of noise, but of stillness in this story. We visit an Athenian home, one with its shutters closed, its fires dimmed, its floors swept, not for guests, but for a body, because someone has died, and before morning can echo through the streets. There is much to be done. You are part of that. Work, a small part, but a crucial one. Let us begin. It begins in the first hour, before dawn, before roosters, before carts, before anything but breath and fear. You wake on your side, as you always do, facing the wall of the inner room. But something is wrong. The house is too. Quiet, no whisper from the kitchen, no footstep from the courtyard, no mother murmuring to the hearth. You sit up, pull your hemation closer around your shoulders. The air feels cold, not in temperature, but in memory, and then you remember. Your aunt died in the night. She had been sick for many moons. Her breath had grown. thinner each evening. You remember the oil-soaked cloths, the bitter teas, the prayers whispered not to gods but to the gods' mothers, because it is said that divine mothers pity mortals more. Last night, her breath stopped. You did not see it happen, but you feel it now. In the silence, in the way no one speaks, you walk quietly to the andron, the men's room now cleared. Her body lies there, not because she was a man, but because it is the largest room, and the best lit. The sun is not up, but a single lamp burns low near her feet. Your mother kneels beside the body, washing her hands with scented water. She does not look up. She simply says, "Bring the laurel." You obey in the storeroom. The laurel branches are dry, tied in small bundles. You select the freshest. They are not for decoration. They are for purification. Laurel keeps away miasma, the spiritual pollution of death. You return and hand them to your mother. She takes one and brushes it gently over the body. The others she lays at the doorway, one for each threshold in the house. No outsider may enter now, and no sacred item, not bread, not oil, not garlands may leave. Not until the third day you were told to heat water. You kneel by the clay stove, add a handful of coals, fan them, wait, add the small bronze pot. You do not rush, because speed feels disrespectful when it boils. You carry it carefully to the room. Your mother pours a bit over a clean cloth, begins washing the body. It is your job to rinse the cloth, to fold the fresh linen, to warm the oil. You do not speak, but you feel everything, every wrinkle of your aunt's hands, the slope of her cheek, the soft bend in her wrist, still visible, though her pulse is gone. Your grandmother arrives. She is too old to kneel, so she sits, but her eyes are clear. She begins combing the hair, slow strokes, pauses, often not for knots. For memory, you watch her hands, steady, unshaking, as though death by now is simply an old neighbor, once clean. The body is anointed. Olive oil, a touch of myrrh, a dab of honey at the forehead. This is not for health, this is for honor. The gods are not the only ones who must look good in death. So must women, so must everyone. Do are given a task, a small one. Find the woven ribbon in your aunt's chest, the one she wore at her naming. You search through the folded cloth, find it yellowed, soft, still smelling faintly of clove. You bring it forward, and your mother places it in the fold of your aunt's tunic, close to the heart, not because it has power, but because it is hers, and the dead should leave with something of their own. By now, the room smells of oil and smoke, but not unpleasantly. It is the scent of ritual, of doing things the right way, of old instructions passed down across too many generations to count. The men enter now. They do not speak to you. They do not look long at the body. They carry in the bier, a wooden frame, woven with leather bands, upon which the body will be placed. It will stay here for 2 days. Visitors will come, not to talk, but to see, to remember the face, to touch the hand, to cry loudly, openly, not for comfort, for honor, but for now. The body is dressed, lifted, placed on the bier, her head turned slightly to the left. A coin, an obol, is placed under her tongue to pay Corin, the ferryman. You wonder if that coin has ever truly mattered, but you do not question it, because tradition is not about belief, it is about belonging. Someone begins the keening. You're not sure who starts it. Your grandmother, perhaps, or the neighbor woman who slipped in during the washing. The sound is not melodic. It is jagged, long dot, drawn from deep within. It fills the room like smoke. It rises through the roof, past the beams, into the sky. It does not end quickly. You are told to join. At first you whisper, then you press your forehead to the floor and you cry. You do not force it, the tears come on their own. You are not crying for the ant. Not really. You are crying for all of it. For the end, for the fear, for the silence that waits at the edge of every day. Outside, someone ties a black cloth to the doors. It tells the village what has happened. No words, just shadow. You sit beside. The beer now. The day has only just begun. But already you are tired. Not from labor, from feeling your body aches from kneeling, but your mind aches more. You stare at her hands, folded over her stomach. So still, so ordinary, and you realize, suddenly, that death is not terrifying. It is tedious, gentle, soft. It moves in linen and oil, and warm water in bronze pots. It speaks in laurel leaves and low chants. It does not scream, it waits, and we meet it with ritual, because ritual is the only language that still makes sense when nothing else does. The day the house did not speak asterisk. The second day dawns quietly. There is no rooster today. Your uncle strangled it. You did not see it happen. But the silence of the morning tells you everything. Roosters are symbols of life, of noise, of defiance. Against sleep, but in a house of death, defiance is unwelcome, and sleep, well, it has already claimed its due. You rise before the others, not out of duty, out of restlessness. You barely slept each time you closed your eyes. You saw her face, not in terror, but in the stillness that comes when someone no longer blinks, or shifts, or breathes. The lamp near her feet had gone out in the night. You relight it, then sit cross-legged at the doorway. You will keep watch. It is your turn. Your aunt still lies on the bier. Her mouth is closed, her eyes sealed with a bit of wax. A wreath of olive and marigold rests above her head. She wears her marriage dress, faded but clean. You had never seen it before now. It will be the last thing she wears. You think about clothes that are never worn except once at birth, at marriage, at death. They are symbols, not garments. And you begin to understand what that means. The prophecy begins as the sun lifts over the wall. The neighbors arrive slowly, quietly. They wear grey. Some bring honey, some bring wine. No one brings. Smiles, they enter the room one at a time. They kneel, they press a hand to her foot, her knee, her hand, then they weep. Not performatively, not falsely, but as a duty to cry is not weakness here. It is part of the ritual. The louder, the better. To show the value of the lost. Women do most of the mourning. They know the patterns. They know the patterns. They know when to pause, when to wail, when to draw out the syllables of a name until it feels like a chant. You listen. You try to memorize the rhythm, not because you are asked to, but because someday you may need to do it yourself. A visitor arrives. A woman from another demos, unfamiliar. She brings a woven cloth, a kind of offering. She kneels, places it over your aunt's legs. It's a custom from her village. You've never seen it done before. Your grandmother says nothing, but allows it. And this, too, you learn in mourning. Sometimes even strangers are folded into the ritual. The morning continues through the day. It is hot. The oil lamps flicker in the warmth. Flies buzz at the edges of the room, kept at bay with vinegar-soaked cloths. Children are not allowed to speak. They sit in corners, watching wide-eyed. You were like them once. Now you are the one, helping, passing the water, refreshing the oils, lifting the edge of the beer to sweep underneath. Midday. Combs. You are allowed to step outside, just briefly, to breathe, to stretch, to not cry, if only for a moment. You walk into the small garden behind the house. It has always felt like a place of joy, where herbs grow wild and cats sneak between clay pots. Today, it is silent. Even the bees move more slowly. You sit beside the thyme bush, pick a sprig, roll it between your fingers. The scent is sharp, alive. You hold it against your cheek, because you need some reminder of living back inside. A change has happened. Your mother is seated now. Your grandmother leads the chants. She beats her chest rhythmically. You join her. Aunt's friends join, too. Even the older neighbor, who never spoke a kind word during your aunt's life, even she weeps. Death erases grudges, or at least delays them today. All are equal before the beer. Someone plays the aloes, a double-piped flute. The music is strange, haunting, like two voices singing in discord. It doesn't soothe, it summons, it opens something in your chest that it stayed hidden until now. You begin to cry again. You do not wipe your tears, you let them roll, because in this house, at this hour, grief is sacred. Toward evening, the family men return. They bring with them the clay amphora filled with wine, not for celebration, for cleansing. Each man takes a small sip, then pours a bit on the ground. Then, over the threshold, the doorway is marked, because tomorrow the body will pass through, and no spirit, not even a loved one, should linger once the rites are done. The women begin preparing the burial items, not grand, not rich, a few personal things, a spindle, a hair comb, a strip of embroidered cloth from her childhood, a small clay figurine of Artemis. Wrapped in linen, they will be placed near her in the pyre, not because she will use them, but because they remember her. Objects can mourn, too, in silence. You help prepare the cart. It will carry the beer tomorrow. You smooth the wood with oil. You check the straps. You place a fresh cloth along the bottom, clean, white, unmarked. The cart is low, simple, but it will roll over stone streets with purpose. With finality, you trace your fingers along the rim and whisper, "Go softly." Night falls. The room is darker now. The lamp is lit again. The body has not moved, but the grief has changed. It is quieter now, less sharp, more like a blanket laid over hot coals. It still burns, but slowly. Softly you lie near the doorway. You are not asked to, but you want to keep watch, to guard the silence, to feel close to the moment, before everything changes, because tomorrow the house will open, the streets will fill, the flames will rise, and you will have to let go. But tonight, you are here in the stillness, in the sacred hush of shared breath and forgotten hymns. The weight of ash, the shape of silence, asterisk, the third morning begins in darkness once more. But this time, it's not quiet. It's filled with soft preparations, the creak of sandals on stone, the rasp of a whetstone against a cart's wheel, the muffled voices of relatives repeating final tasks over and over. You were already awake. You didn't sleep. You lay all night beside the doorway, one hand resting on the threshold, guarding the soul's last night under this roof, because this house was her last world, and this morning, it must release her. You stand slowly, your legs are stiff dot, your eyes dry. There are no tears left for now, only movement, only purpose, only the slow unfolding of ritual. You walk to the andron, she is still there, still dressed, still honored. The lamps have burned low again. You relight them one final time. The room is warmer than it was 2 days ago, warmer than it should be, and that, too, feels right. The dead should not go out in cold. Your uncle stands near the bier. He adjusts the wreath, straightens the ribbon across her chest, touches her forehead, not to bless her, to say goodbye. He does not weep, he simply nods once, then lifts one. End of the bier to another, man takes the other, together. They carry her toward the door. You walk ahead with your mother, scattering laurel leaves before them, not to decorate, to cleanse. To cleanse the body takes, must be ritually cleared. The dead cannot touch the living world without cost. Outside, the procession gathers, neighbors, friends, distant. Family, some with torches, some with jars of wine, some with nothing but silent eyes and bowed heads. The cart is ready, the bier is placed gently atop it, ropes secured. You stand beside it. The kenning begins. Again, not in the shrillness of the first day, but in a slower, deeper chant. It moves like a tide, rising and falling with each step of the cart, and the city begins to listen. The procession winds through the lower streets, past shuttered shops, past temples not open yet, past the fountain where you once fetched water with your aunt on a spring morning. You glance at it now, and feel something tight in your chest. It looks the same, but it has changed forever, because she will never walk past it again at the edge of the city. The burial grounds begin, not graves, not yet. Today she will be cremated, the old way, the honored way, there, on a stone platform beyond the olive trees. The pyre waits. It is not grand, it is not ceremonial, it is necessary. You watch the men lift the bier from the cart, place it gently atop. The wood, arranged carefully, respectfully. The small items, the spindle, the ribbon, the comb are placed beside her. A final touch, a final act of memory. Your grandmother takes a torch. She kneels before the pyre. She whispers something no one else hears. Then she lights the edge. The fire is slow to catch, then fast. The smoke rises in white spirals, then black, then gold. You step back, but not far. You watch, not because you were told to, because you must. This is part of the mourning. Two, not looking away. The fire crackles. The body disappears. Slowly, not all at once. First the cloth, then the wreath, then the outline of a shoulder, then nothing. Only smoke, and the scent of wood and oil and flesh. You do not turn your face. You keep your eyes steady. You watch until the fire is nothing but coals, and the heat is too great to stand near. Later, the ashes are gathered. You do not help with this part. The elder men do it. They use bronze, scoops. They place the remains in a small clay urn. A lid is pressed atop it, sealed with wax, then tied with red string. The urn is placed in a niche, not buried, but stored with the others, in the family chamber, where her ancestors wait, where someday others will join her, where maybe, someday, your own ashes will rest. You walk back home in silence, no singing, no keening. The ritual is complete there. is nothing more to perform now. You begin the long, slow forgetting back at the house. The cleansing begins. You mix water with seawater, wash the threshold, rinse your hands, then your head, then your feet. You dry yourself with a clean cloth, burn it after you sprinkle ashes on the doorway. You touch the lintel with olive oil. The house is no longer under miasma. It may receive guests again. It may cook food again. It may laugh again, but not today. Today is for silence. You sit in the inner room. The beer is gone, the lamps are extinguished. Only the faint smell of myrrh remains. You close your eyes, rest your head against the wall, and listen. Not for voices, not for prayers, but for the sound of a house learning to breathe again. Later, you are told to write her name once on a wax tablet, not for record, for memory. You write slowly. Let each letter press deeply. You close the tablet, tie it with string, place it on a high shelf. No one will touch it for a year, then it will be burned. The two is part of the ritual. Even names must eventually be released. You walk to the garden again. The thyme bush is still there. This time you pluck a sprig, not for remembrance, but for planting. You press it into a clay pot, add a bit of soil, a drop of water. You place it on the windowsill. Let the sun warm it. Let it grow, because something must. That night, you sleep without fear, not without sorrow, but without fear. You dream of your aunt's hands, not as they lay in stillness, but as they once moved, braiding your hair, lighting a lamp, cutting a thread. They do not wave goodbye, they simply keep, working as if life never ended, only changed. You wake in the pale blue of dawn. The world has not ended. The city stirs, the rooster crows, a new one, perhaps, or the old one, unstrangled after all. You smile, just a little, then rise. Another day begins.